Joining us is our resident film critic, Michael Snyder. Jurassic World.
Oh, well, this is the best of the three Jurassic sequels, and it really benefits from the technological jumps in animation and even puppetry that have gone down since the first film, which was, 20 years ago? However long ago, it was the most innovative for computer animation of its time, and so, it's looked at lovingly, but this is a major jump, technically speaking. But it also has the benefit of the lovable, goofy, can-do lunk persona that makes lead actor Chris Pratt such an asset in a genre movie like this, and of course, Guardians of the Galaxy. The presumption is that the company and genetic advances developed all those years ago by Richard Attenborough's character in Jurassic Park are still in play today, and the people who did that stuff learned from the mistakes made by genetically fashioning prehistoric dinosaurs in modern times. Not really all that great an idea. In fact, the modern version of the company goes back to the island preserve where the Neo-Dinos first ran wild, led by the unstoppable T-Rex that everybody recalls, and the nimble and quite vicious raptors, those creatures that menaced the arrogant human creators. Only now the whole island is a successful full-service theme park with a CEO. This guy's looking for a new, more frightening attraction to be made by the lab geeks. So Pratt is an ex-soldier, an animal handler who seems to have mastered this new generation of raptors. He's almost like the Siegfried and Roy of dinosaur trainers. Bryce Dallas Howard is kind of the sexy, brainy, button-down company suit who tries to justify the dangers of creating a new super dino as an attraction. And Vincent D'Onofrio is the amoral black ops mercenary who wants to use trained dinosaurs as weapons. And, of course, there are a couple of suburban kids in danger and a family-first theme. And, come on, it's still a Spielberg production. Howard's character is the kid's aunt who has to learn the importance of family. Judy Greer is her sister and the kid's mother. B.D. Wong is an ambitious geneticist. Jake Johnson from New Girl, who I find very funny, is comic relief as a park techie, and so on. And the script is boilerplate. It mirrors the first movie, and again, much better than the second and third. Only it has less wit to the dialogue, and Howard's character arc is pretty lame. But she and Pratt are kind of game, and they do their best to mimic bickering screwball comedy couples from Hollywood's golden era among dinosaurs attacking them. The visuals are fantastic, and for on-screen thrills and tension stuff, this really worked for me big time. And fans of the original film will spot quite a few Easter eggs throughout, or maybe that ought to be dino eggs. I dug it.
Did Spielberg direct this?
No, he was the producer. The guy who directed this thing is not a big name, Colin Trevorrow, but he's sort of a Spielberg protege. And it was written by Trevorrow and three other people, so there's a little bit of, too many cooks maybe in the script. And again, Howard's character arc will have you rolling your eyes. But you cheer her on by the end of it if you're just, it's popcorn movie fun. Oh, baby, yes.
Me and Earl and the Dying Girl.
Well, this could have been excruciating, but it's charming and funny and sweet and sad, and it won the 2015 Sundance Grand Jury Prize and the Audience Award, and now it's in theaters. Essentially, it's a coming-of-age story about Greg, who's a snarky, guarded high school senior, badgered by his mom to befriend a classmate who's dealing with a cancer diagnosis. This happened to all of us in high school, didn't it? Anyway, he hasn't interacted with Rachel, the sick girl, since they were in a kindergarten together, so this is sort of a toughie. Still, the guilt trip works. So he convinces his combative best buddy to get on board with him and go visit the girl. And, the first visit turns into a second and third, and there are, amusing and poignant results. And the actors playing the teenagers are unknowns, but I don't think for long. Thomas Mann and Olivia Cook are Greg, and Rachel, they're ideal. R.J. Seiler is Greg's pal Earl, also fantastic. And for the adults, you really can't go wrong with, Connie Britton and Nick Offerman as Greg's parents. John Bernthal of The Walking Dead, who was just cast as the Punisher in the Marvel Universe, plays Greg's favorite teacher, and this is a killer. Even Saturday Night Live alumnus Molly Shannon, who usually gives me the creeps, delivers as Rachel's high-strung mother. Wisely cast, and highly recommended. Directed by Alfonso Gomez-Rejon and written by Jesse Andrews. This is a winner, believe it or not.
Madame Bovary.
Well, we've seen Gemma Bovary, which is a kind of modern take on Gustave Flaubert's original novel, but it's also, kind of witty, and there's a lot of how shall we put this? It's postmodernism at its finest. It's a takeoff on the original, and I found that kind of better than this more conventional movie, the classic story of Emma Bovary, who impulsively marries a small-town doctor. It's set in Normandy, France, 100-plus years ago, and it's a sad situation. And Madame Bovary was appropriately dark and depressing, like the source material. And there's a great cast here, led specifically by Mia Wasikowska, who plays Emma, and they're portraying miserable people doing miserable things. So it's a veritable fun fest for the Xanax crowd. Pretty solid adaptation, although I wasn't dazzled, nor was I deeply moved, other than to kind of pity and decry Emma and the people who take advantage of her weak-mindedness. It's classic stuff. And we've seen this sort of thing before, and this is not great. But, kudos to Sophie Barthas, who directed it. And, one can only hope. You get the benefit of a solid cast under Wasikowska. Reese Ifans plays the merchant who kind of gets her in debt. And, it's Henry Lloyd Hughes, who I haven't seen very much of, plays Charles Bovary, the husband. Quite good. There's the lover, the Marquis. That's Logan Marshall Green. The people deliver. But again, we've been there before, and I think the wit and the kind of creative approach to the source material that was done by the original graphic novel Gemma Bovary by Posey Simmons, and then translated by Anne Fontaine into a live-action film, much more interesting to me.
Love and Mercy.
Love and Mercy. Oh, my God. Well, this is one of the best rock and roll or pop music biopics I've ever seen. It's the story of Brian Wilson, the genius composer, singer, musician behind the Beach Boys, a troubled fellow, and it's very interesting because it splits the portrayal into two, with Paul Dano playing the younger, tormented Brian at the height of his creative powers, and John Cusack as the elder, damaged Brian under the thumb of the psychologist Eugene Landy, played by Paul Giamatti. Elizabeth Banks as Melinda, the woman who would become the second Mrs. Wilson and help liberate Wilson from what the film depicts as the clutches of a second-rate Svengali. There are sequences set when he was recording Pet Sounds with the Beach Boys, in fact, using the Wrecking Crew, the great L.A. Band of session musicians, and the casting of the boys as they were younger and session musicians Hal Blaine and Carol Kay is spot on. I mean, with all the timeless music thrown in and a moving story and the actors all delivering, even if Cusack's a little too Cusacky, this is a hell of a film.
Testament of Youth.
Well, anti-war books are not a dime a dozen, but this was one, and it was a famous one that is still a bestseller, written by a woman by the name of Vera Brittain. It's her First World War memoir that deals with essentially what happens when the love of her life and her brother go off to war, and very potent. Alicia Vikander, who is the female robot in Ex Machina, and just amazing in that, is also amazing here as Vera Brittain, and the supporting players including Kit Harington of Game of Thrones as her lover, Taron Egerton as her brother, and supporting work from Emily Watson and Haley Atwell, unparalleled, very, very solid. It's inspiring. It's moving. It's going to be a little dense for some people, but I thought Testament of Youth was worth every minute spent watching it. Directed by James Kent and based on Brittain's novel, memoir.
Michael Snyder is our resident film critic. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, Michael.
You got it, buddy.